I don't have my microphone on, but now I do. Million things. Ready? All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March 13th regular meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Ossining. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilwoman Shaw?
Present.
Councilman Wiltshire?
Present.
Councilwoman Feldman?
Present.
Councilwoman DeTore?
Present.
And Supervisor Levenberg.
Here. All right, so we are going to start off with a special presentation. In early February, I received a letter from YAI, an organization that manages individual residential alternatives and provides services throughout the New York metro area, informing me that a home for 6 intellectually and developmentally disabled young adults was being proposed for the single-family home at 16 Waterview Drive in the unincorporated town. Within a specific window of time, the town board is permitted to deliberate on the placement of the home along some very strict guidelines on which I will let our council elaborate. This board decided that we would like to hear from the folks at YAI about the project and also from any residents who have input that they would like to share, remembering that the board is only permitted to consider input that follows the prescribed guidelines. So, Council Adana, would you please elaborate?
Thank you, Supervisor. Under New York Mental Hygiene Law, Section 4134, the town board is, the supervisor is given notice of the proposed location of the site, and the town board is, at their discretion, can provide comments within 40 days of the letter under 3 separate, criteria. The first is to approve the site recommended by the sponsoring agency here, YAI, to alternatively suggest 1 or more suitable sites within the jurisdiction as an alternative to the site being proposed, or object to the establishment of a facility in kind, because to do so would result in such a concentration of community residential facilities for the mentally disabled in the municipality that the nature and character of the areas within the municipality would be substantially altered. And so I wanted to read strictly from the statute just so that we're all clear on what the purview and jurisdiction of this board's review is tonight. And we are fortunate enough to have YAI here to speak with us a little bit about what they're proposing. But in terms of the context of which this board can weigh in, those are the parameters of what you're looking at.
Right, and I just wanted to reiterate, we did receive communication in February, or at least that's when it was dated. I'm not sure I actually received it then, but that, and then we shared that with the board. And now I'd like to invite Sandy Spicer up from YAI and her entourage. If you want to come on up to the podium over here, just introduce yourself and maybe your group, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about the proposed group home.
Great, thank you so much. So my name is Sandy Spicer. I'm here tonight with Kathy Schiavi, who's our Westchester Regional Director, and I have a bunch of staff here that I'd like to introduce because they will be people that will be working in the home. Samantha is a coordinator who will be working in the home. Michael will be the residential supervisor. Nick Shapiro on my team will be overseeing the construction. And we actually have a member of New York State OPWDD, Louis Prescott, who's here just as a representative.
Wonderful.
I'm the VP of Program Development at YI. I've been there for over 30 years. Kathy Schiavi has been with the agency for 24 years. And a large part of what I do is to develop and maintain permanent housing for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We're here tonight to discuss YI's proposal to develop a 6-person group home for young adults who are aging out of their school placement or living with their families, and answer questions you may have about the agency, the use of the home, the individuals who will live in the home, and our staffing. Let me first tell you a little bit about YAI. We're a nonprofit agency who's been around for over 60 years, and our mission is to provide all sorts of services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. This can include autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. The old-fashioned and incorrect term that was often associated with IDD was mental retardation. YI provides housing to over 750 people. 15 homes of those are in Westchester. We have 15 homes, and we have 4 apartments, and we provide permanent housing to 132 people in this county. We also own a large building in Tarrytown and lease another space in Elmsford, which are day programs. We provide employment services, community and family services to hundreds of families in Westchester. Let me tell you some specifics about the current proposal. There is a large waiting list for individuals with IDD who either live with their families or who are living at residential schools and are in need of residential placement. The house we're talking about at 16 Waterview Drive is a large single-family home, which is about 3,200 square feet on a 0.4-acre lot. Currently, there are 5 bedrooms, 3 full baths, and 1 half bath. The basement's finished, there is an attached garage, and the whole yard is currently fenced in. There is currently off-street parking for 3 cars. The renovations will not increase the footprint of the home, and we will not be converting the garage to living space. The renovations will include the installation of a hardwire smoke detector system, egress windows, widening of the driveway so that we could fit 5 cars, and replacing some of the sliding doors with regular doors. We are also going to, out of the master bedroom suite, create an additional bedroom, so there will be 6 individual bedrooms. All the work will be done under the supervision of a licensed architect and contractor, and we will be filing for the appropriate permits. Kathy is going to tell you a little bit about the individuals, the staffing, and how we operate our program.
Hi. So, as Sandy said, we have 6 young adults that we're looking to move into the residence. I've met all 6 of them as well as their families. We have 2 young women and 4 young men, all of whom are between the ages of 21 and 22. They're really a fantastic bunch, and we're excited to possibly have the opportunity to have them reside in Ossining. The staffing pattern in the house will be typical of most of our houses. We will have 2 overnight awake staff, and on evenings and weekends, 4 to 5 direct support professionals. And then during the day, since the people we support will be going out to their day programs or pre-employment programs, there might be a lighter staffing pattern. All of our staff go through several clearances before we even hire them. They go through a criminal background check, as well as they have to go through the Medicaid exclusionary list that New York State has out. We then have a tremendous amount of training that they go through, everything from compliance and regulatory trainings to teaching skills and running successful activities. Several of the staff, as Sandy introduced, Samantha and Michael are coming on board. These are our veteran staff that will provide the leadership, and we will be bringing some of our more seasoned staff in to help the home get off its ground. Personally, just to put in a personal, I'm very excited. I grew up in Croton. I currently live in Cortland Manor, and I have a lot of interaction in Ossining. My mom lived in the Pines. My son went to All Aboard, and I worked at Cedar Manor Nursing Home before going to YI. So I just think it's such a great town, and it offers so much in terms of recreation and opportunities for the people that we will be supporting, and we hope to have the opportunity to do that.
So I would just ask if there's anybody here from the public who would like to share any feedback on the proposal, and then we can take questions also from the board following that. If there's anybody from the public and you want to come up and approach the microphone and just introduce yourselves, that would be great.
I'm Mary Ann Dempsey, and I live at 23 Waterview Drive. So my concern is in the traffic in and out and the parking. I'm kind of familiar with the Locust Roadhouse, and I even spoke here in favor of the Locust Roadhouse. But as I go past that house, all the time in the summer. We're members of Torview. There are cars parked all over. I think they have 5 or 6 residents now. That's a one-on-one situation, I believe, staff to resident. The cars are all over, and when you get family and everything, so you're saying 5 cars in that driveway, but they'll have to be shuffled for people to get in and out, which experience tells me going to be a lot of cars on the street. It's at the corner. It makes it very obvious that it's not just another family residence. What would you, are you just saying, well, it is what it is, or?
And I'll let Sandy speak to this too, but I do know that is. why
Okay, so
we're-
both of you, or whoever's speaking has to come up to the microphone.
Sorry.
Okay.
So, in my experience, parking and fences are the 2 things that make good neighbors. We looked at widening the driveway. We will work with the.
You just come a little closer to the microphone or aim it towards
We
you.
will work with the municipality to widen it as much as possible. I know we've looked at this. We also looked at if we wanted to put a circular driveway in, which would actually help with cars going in and out. So that is something that if we can legally do, that we will actually entertain and will bring up with the state, because we did look, that was one of the options of putting the driveway and then a circular drive so that it's easier to get in and out. We are sensitive to it. We will work with you. Usually staff are there. We have one agency vehicle. There'll be a van and.
Is that one of the?
No.
don't anticipate
No, it's a minivan.
Mom van.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a minivan. Everybody's young. Everybody can get in and out of a van. It's not going to be one of the large vans. There will be people in the morning, in the evening. I'm not going to lie. They will be picked up or dropped off. They'll be picked up at about maybe 8 o'clock in the morning to go to program, and then dropped off again somewhere around 4, 3:30, 4.
Together, or this is 6 different?
That answer, I don't
Gotta
know.
you just come to the
So
microphone.
we have to see if everybody's going to Terrytown, our one program, then they'll all be going together. And if some may be going to Elmsford, we will try to coordinate that so that it is not as difficult. It should not be more than 2. Should not be more than 2 vehicles, because they'll only be going to one of 2 programs at this point in the morning for pickup and drop-off. There will always be somebody at the house, and if we're finding that the parking and the cars are a problem, you will have somebody to go and speak to. Okay, but the goal was to it's a pretty wide driveway, but we want to widen it. We'll go back as far as possible. And I'm happy to look at the circular driveway, which is something that we looked at before.
Are there any other questions or anybody else who's come to address? Okay.
Actually, members, does the prospect of the drug rehab center at Hudson Institute, I think it was called, which is less than a half a mile from the neighborhood, have any effect on the consideration for this property? And
Not
also
in my
the
opinion.
expansion of Sunshine Home, also less than half a mile.
I mean, I think that all of those facilities serve different purposes, and
So,
they're not, it's not,
if they were in the same municipality, would they have an effect?
I
It'd be a
guess,
different conversation.
It would be.
I don't agree.
That's true. There are 3 distinct services for distinct circumstances. So I don't see any similarity at all. And you have a very diffuse area there. It's fairly rural, especially when you're talking about Sunshine Home going back there. So I don't really see how that would have an impact.
I mean, from a legal standpoint, I don't know if that's the question, but
I mean, you are looking at other facilities in the same proximity in that area. It's not a formula or a perfect science. It's this board's review and thoughts based upon the comments you received and your knowledge and input of the area.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think a group home serves a totally different purpose than either one of those establishments and a different clientele. And, you know, you're looking for permanent housing for people who need support services. That is different than a rehab or a children's home. So,
I was looking at it as more as the instructions and the guidelines we were given as we were looking at how many are in our municipality. And I was kind of looking at it as that neither one of those are in our municipality, so I didn't know if we were taking that into consideration as part of our
Also look at
municipality.
in the proximity generally.
I'm aware of that, but I do also think that per municipality, I mean, when you start looking at, you know, if there's a heavy percentage of group homes in a neighborhood, particularly that it starts, like, there's a whole neighborhood that's just focused on group homes, you know, then you would start to say, okay, wait a second, maybe you want to spread things out a little bit, and but
That's your
Right.
perspective to have, absolutely. I'm just responding to Councilwoman Feldman's question about whether it's limited to strictly the geographic delineation of a specific municipality, and it isn't.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Are there any questions, additional questions from anybody in the audience? Are there more questions from the audience? More statements? Also? Okay, and did you go?
I did
Go
just
ahead.
want to say in hearing her, because we, you know, we do operate, I oversee 15 homes in Westchester, and, you know, we have two strong focuses. One is the quality of support inside the home, but we also know the importance of being a good neighbor, and the outside of the house, and how that, you know, we want the people we support to be included in the community. And if we don't take good care of our home and our neighbors and have good relationships, that really hinders that process. So it's equally even shared with the staff that work in our homes, that they, you know, from the moment they enter a street, they are representing the people that they support in that home. I did just want to kind of reassure that.
Yeah, I actually have one question. So you're not for profit, but do you help the municipality, you know, do you help develop programs that will include people with all different kinds of disabilities within our, you know, if you take some of our regular programs, will you help us expand them to include people with disabilities, or will you work with us to help include people with challenges, or maybe give us ideas for programs that would be inclusive of people? I mean, are you willing to kind of give some of your time, energy, and expertise in what would be good to work with us on that?
I think that's an unbelievable opportunity. I did leave information about YI, and I did leave my business cards. So if there's some opportunities that we could work together, many of the individuals that we serve, this group is pretty high functioning. So they also do volunteer work in the community. So they do work at soup kitchens, pantries, mailings for nonprofits. They have to do nonprofit work. So we could volunteer in different community projects. And if there are a group of people, YI has the two centers, but if there was space and we could run social or recreational groups, we'd be happy to look at doing it in Austining as well. And also to take referrals for services, not just for residential services, but we have community and family services, employment services, recreation services, and other things.
I just wanted to add that we actually do have 2 volunteer sites already in Austining. We have a volunteer site at Peas and Carrots Daycare, where a few of our individuals go on a regular basis, and they help by giving back to the community and supporting that program. And we also have a volunteer site at T-Town. So we go and we help to keep trails nice and clean. So we've already been in that process, and I think this relationship will only continue that.
I was also thinking too, you know, when thinking of ideas, this group also truly loves sports, baseball and basketball, the young men, so even opportunities like that on the recreation.
Yeah, so I mean, there's opportunities for them, but there's also opportunities to develop or help us develop programs for any other residents that may or may not have whatever challenge,
Yeah,
just so that the whole town could be more inclusive with our whole recreation.
Which is great. We are always looking for opportunities to be inclusive and integrated, so.
Okay,
that
so
would be-
we'll look forward to working with you. If
That's
you need
great.
it.
Just one one question before you go. How do you usually get like the patients? How do you, where do they come from?
So that's a good question. We get the referrals from OPWDD. These are all students who are aging out. They're currently in residential schools. So once they hit 21, then they enter what we call the adult system and looking for permanent homes. And we receive a lot of clinical information. We then go and we do an extensive screening process because we want to make sure that we're able to meet their needs. And also, too, that it's somewhat homogeneous because they're all going to be living together. So we've done a tremendous amount of screenings.
The other thing is YI right now has also been awarded an additional home for individuals who are actually living at home. It's just in Westchester. We haven't found a place right now. And it will be for people that are in urgent or emergency needs. They may be elderly parents with a developmentally disabled child at home. It would be an adult. So we are also been awarded to develop another 6-bed program in Westchester for people that are living with their families or in a nursing home and they've been placed there inappropriately just because there wasn't another placement.
Okay, so this is not a program where you, even though you're in the community, you don't go out here and say, would you like work here or something like that. That's not what this is about. Am I right?
Or work? Are you saying do they recruit locally for
Yeah,
people
that's
to work
what-
there?
What she was just asking. And I didn't think that's how those places work.
For people to live there or work there?
Whatever. And it,
No, I was asking about our own recreation programs, and
Yeah.
would they be able to, if the staff would be able to help us develop ones for everybody in town?
Programs, like programs, not like so you have the 6 people who are living there, and then during the day they participate in programs. I think what Councilwoman Feldman was saying was that they would potentially help with programs at our rec center that would serve the population as well as other people in our community, not just them.
Well, yeah, but I was asking if the staff and that YAI had consultants that would help us work with our rec department to develop programs just to be more inclusive to our entire community.
I see. Okay.
You know how we were talking about
Yes,
having
and-
the being more
I
inclusive?
think differently resolution that we're still working on. Yeah.
Right, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was just
Okay,
wondering
that's
if
good.
that
Thank
group
you.
would be
Right,
willing to
okay.
consult with
So
us on that.
definitely, we would look at that opportunity, look at any other volunteer opportunities you had in the community, and we will be hiring additional people and hopefully people from the town as well. We become an employer. We also purchase food and other services from businesses locally as well.
And in terms of your recruitment, do you recruit for this particular home? Are they local from Westchester or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, but we always try, we would love to recruit locally. The closer our staff are, the better. So we'll be doing job fairs and things of that nature.
I meant for the residents,
Yes.
Are they local? Are they?
Oh.
I meant, are the residents, are the 6
people that are
individuals
moving
who are going to be moving in?
Yes. Are they from the local area? Yes, they are. One person is from a little bit up in North County, but many are from Terrytown, Pleasantville, so in the surrounding area.
Okay.
Families.
Okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you.
And I think, do you want to?
Well,
Comment?
so it's
So-
really just at this point, the town board's purview of whether you want to just leave it as is, they presented, or if you want to formally submit a response under the 1-3 options that I delineated, approving the site recommended, suggesting another site, or objecting based upon the concentration in the area.
All right. So we're don't really take a vote on this?
No, it's just a discussion, and then you could, if you did want to respond, you
Right.
could direct me to draft something based upon your comments. If you don't want to respond, when the 40 days are up, they'll go on their way.
Okay. Matter, because I would suggest that we respond, having had a couple comments that seems to me like we have a good neighbor moving in, and I would suggest that if everybody is okay with that, that we draft something to say that we would approve it. Unless we have any discuss about it or hear from the public. You okay with that?
Okay, so I will
Good.
prepare something.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you for your time tonight. All right. So next up, we have a public hearing in the matter of Westchester Ballroom Cabaret renewal. If you have been, if I could just ask if everybody, we have a long meeting ahead of us. If you could just take your conversation a little outside, that would be great. If you've been following along, you know that a few weeks back, we opened the public hearing on the cabaret license renewal for Westchester Ballroom on North State Road. Excuse me, would you mind just taking your conversation outside? It is hard to have multiple conversations. Thank you. As far back as early last year, we have heard from many of the neighbors that loud music, often playing past the permitted time, has caused a nuisance. And we had kept the public hearing open in order to see how we could work this out. We believe it's in everyone's best interest for this business to do well, but we need to make sure that the quality of life in the neighborhood is not adversely impacted. After we were here last, the Austin Police worked with the owner, Ms. Antes, and Mr. Savino to conduct a sound test at the property, and all of our town board members have had an opportunity to hear the results of that test. I would ask Lieutenant Damiano if you would just join us and discuss it briefly, what transpired as far as the test was concerned, and do you want to come up to the podium? Oh, okay, great, even better. No, that's fine. However you, yeah, you can stay there. I didn't realize that's what you're doing. Okay.
On Friday night, I met Mr. Savino at the Westchester Ballroom. Took a number of tests. First, we went outside into the parking lot. There was no audible music that we could hear from the parking lot. Then we went inside to make sure the ballroom was playing. The ballroom was playing, had 40 to 50 people there. Mr. Savino directed the DJ to increase the volume. Went back outside. We still cannot hear it. Traffic was louder than anything we could hear. We then went up to the Morningside Drive residence, and we took sound levels and recordings there. We cannot hear any audible music. I did, in fact, go back about 10:30 p.m. that night. I went back inside Westchester Ballroom. They had the music playing at a very reasonable level. I cannot hear anything from the parking lot as well at 10:30 at night. That was a Friday night. We've had no complaints for the last 2 months since the Saturday night party on January 6th into the 7th.
So, I just for the record, I think that we knew that there weren't any big parties. This wasn't a big party. This was a regular Friday night event, so this isn't necessarily the event that has been causing any problems with the neighbors to begin with, just to make sure that we're all clear on that. And as far as these events are concerned, they're great. You have a whole bunch of great people come into your event, and we're really supportive of that. So, Mr. Savino, did you want to say something in addition to, or did you want to make a statement? I know you came up to the podium, so I just didn't know if you wanted to make a
In the
statement.
public hearing, if you had any questions for me, or if you wanted me to address anything that transpired on Friday originally.
Right.
But originally, we had tried to do this on the 2nd, but unfortunately, because of the weather, it was rescheduled to last Friday the 9th. And I want to thank the lieutenant for his time to come out and help us out with this and really try to determine what the sound levels were. As far as that goes, as we discussed at the last public hearing, these Fridays parties are the only parties that are happening from now until May.
Right.
That's it. I mean, I'm not sure what else we can do as far as what other parties that we're talking about. I think there was reference made to a Saturday party, but I mean, I can't see a Saturday party being any different than a Friday party. And the type of music is played may be different, but like we said, even if we couldn't hear it outside, we had them increase the volume just a little, so it's not be upsetting to the people attending the party, but even try to make it louder than usual so we can make a determination of what kind of sounds we'd hear from the outside. And we couldn't hear anything. I mean, really, what we were picking up, and correct me if I'm wrong, was really suburban carting, cars transpiring, a condenser at the property, And even just casual conversation of are we in the right location, that kind of thing. I think that it speaks for itself. I think that there shouldn't be any issues with sound levels at the property, which was the concern last time with the board. So hopefully we've proved to you and provided you enough information that there shouldn't be an issue with that. But like I said, I'm happy to answer any questions if you have, but we're not going to have any kind of Saturday party. If you're on the mailing list, you know that a lot of these parties are now moving to a Yonkers location. And by the way, if you're not on the distribution list, please give me your email address and I'm happy to. But Supervisor Levenberg, I know you are. So, I mean, a lot of these parties are moving to Yonkers simply because of it's much more convenient. Briarcliff, as beautiful as it is a little off the beaten path from some of our folks that come in from Brooklyn, Queens, and the Bronx to come in and dance and have a good time. So it's easier to do it down there from a business perspective.
Okay.
Having said that, like I said, the music would be no louder than it would be on a Friday night party as well.
Okay.
And I don't know how how we could test.
Okay, so let me just ask, council members, have you all had a chance to listen to the sound test? Yes. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or any discussion about?
I had a question. What we heard from the public was not a problem with necessarily the Friday parties, it's the Saturday parties. And yeah, you don't have one scheduled till May. My question is, on Friday there seems to be staff there, so there's things more under control. Are you gonna now have staff on Saturday so things are also under control? The video I saw looked good. The place is beautiful. I mean, people look like they were having a good time, and that's what we want. But my question is, can we keep Friday and Saturday similarly in having either is it their staff there or some kind of control? Because what I heard from the residents is the Saturday issue, not necessarily a Friday issue.
Yeah, the simple answer is yes, we can. And I know there was an issue, not so much with sound levels, but there was a ticket that was issued for having music played after 12 o'clock. That was something that was on us, and we've addressed those. That was an internal issue. So that was a blip. It was more of something that hasn't happened in her 3 years of operation. We've tightened some of the controls and went back to our people and told them exactly how it should be. But there should be the controls on a Saturday night, if there were to be a party, are no different than they would be on a Friday night.
Okay.
And again, part of the approval was that Barbara or a responsible person would be at each party there, being responsible. That would, I'm sure, would be into this year's approval as well.
So I think, is there anybody else here from the public to address the board at the public hearing on this issue? Westchester Ballroom, Cabaret Renewal. Okay. So hearing none, I think what I'm going to suggest that we do is close the public hearing, and we are going to work on a resolution with a different set of conditions than the last resolution, that rate a renewal, right, a license for a conditional amount of time. Probably, you said through May, you're not going to have any of these parties. So we'll probably allow you to continue to move forward with the types of parties that you're having now. And then in May, we would allow this other party. Do you want to go ahead, Council, and continue
Well, I
with
mean,
this?
it's up to the board how you want to do it. I mean, I know there has been concerns about the distinction between the Friday and Saturday party. We could put the same conditions on, and Mr. Savino has suggested they would be the same on parties on Friday versus parties on Saturday. We could also do it so that if a party is held, if and when a party is held on a Saturday, we could try to arrange for some further testing just to confirm.
I mean, I don't want to limit which night is the loud party, because I don't think that makes a whole lot of sense. What I think we should do is that have some condition that if you are disturbing the peace, that something happens to keep you from getting to do that again.
But isn't that already in the noise law? I mean, if there's a
They have to
complaint.
comply with the noise ordinance,
Right.
and that's a requirement of the cabaret code, that they have to comply with the
I know,
noise
but
code.
what I'm suggesting is that there's some
A mechanism
a
that,
circuit breaker that says, okay, well, you don't keep getting chances to make that mistake again and again. I mean, is there nothing that we can do? Then we could say, well, if this happens, then we're going to withdraw your cabaret for.
well, there are
Breaks you out.
There are provisions under the code where if under certain circumstances, the conditions of the cabaret license or the cabaret code are not complied with, then this board can follow certain procedures to consider revoking that license. You could probably also, if you wanted to consider, put something in there where if you learned that there was a violation or that there was noise exceeding the code parameters, that the applicant has to come back to the board, kind of like what you would put in a special permit sometimes. There are different ways to work with that, to provide some oversight, but there are conditions that were in the approval last year, and
Right.
similar conditions will be in the approval, and that's above and beyond, like Mr. Savino said, what's required in the code itself to ensure compliance with that.
Okay, I mean, I guess that the issue is that what we issued last year, and then there were, a number of times that there were violations, and we felt like that there was nothing we could really do because we'd issued the cabaret license. So, I'm not sure I'm totally
Alleged
understanding.
violations the only ticket that I'm aware of is the one ticket that was issued for playing music after 12:30. So, I mean, while we're saying that there are a number of violations, I mean, it's just, there are none. What we have is an opinion of residents that seem to be that the music is too loud. And what I'm saying is that if there is, then there should be measurements taken, proof that says that the residents, that the music is too loud, and the police would issue a violation.
I mean, we could also link it to what Mr. Savino had presented a few weeks ago. He submitted a revised application that lays out exactly what types of events are being held. And as Councilwoman Shaw was stating, make sure that there's adequate staff on site to oversee and address any issues that come up.
And our building inspector did make a couple of suggestions for.
Yeah, the building inspector weighed in and made a couple of suggestions. It can also be structured in terms of, approximate size of events. But it seems like you're generally within the 40 to 50 person range. Does it go a lot higher than that?
Yes, and like I said, even if the Nest party is in May, come down. Let's do testing in May. I mean, we're happy to comply.
Right,
I
I
mean,
think
we
that's
want to
what-
be a part of this.
Okay.
But if it means that the lieutenant and I go back on the next Saturday party, that's fine, as long as this isn't a continual thing. I mean, no other business that I know of being subjected to these hoops have to jump through.
They haven't applied for a cabaret license.
Well, what I would ask on that also as well is that the board would be so kind and considerate and extend the same courtesy and consideration to Westchester Ballroom that they did with Maya Riviera and allow us to operate till 1 o'clock in the morning.
I don't think we're ready to do that yet.
We're not there
Let's
yet.
just take some baby steps.
Okay.
But I do think that I appreciated. I got an email from Evangelina.
Evangelina,
Said
sure.
that you had reached out. You were trying to reach out and set up a meeting at your space for the neighbors. I'm not sure if that actually happened or not.
I think I've heard that Evangelina had reached out.
I don't know if she was going to send it and try to find a better date. She was setting something up very quickly, and we suggested maybe she try to find a date that was mutually.
I'm sure she can work with the
Agreeable?
neighbors to try to do that, but I mean, that should be separate from I hope that's nothing that's going to hold up the approval, if you will. I mean, that's certainly something separate. We're welcome to have any of the neighbors come over. Or even,
We were very happy to see that you had initiated that outreach. So that was certainly something that would weigh favorably, especially if there was a positive meeting.
And we hope that the meeting will take place soon.
Okay. So we will work on a draft of a resolution for the cabaret renewal, or
Yeah, you can vote to close the public hearing, and then I can prepare a resolution that the board can consider and make whatever modifications or changes that deem appropriate. The code does authorize you to put reasonable conditions related to the use of the property. You did it last year. So, yeah, it's just about formulating it in a way that everyone's comfortable.
okay. All right. So we will do that. So without further ado, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
All those in favor, is this a roll call vote for this?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thanks very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night,
Thank you.
everybody. All right. So, next up, thank you, Lieutenant, very much. Where are we up to? Wait. Oh. No? So maybe. Great. So next up, I have some announcements. I wanted to start off by thanking our residents and local businesses for their patience this past week, last week, and this week. Ossining, like many other Westchester communities and communities throughout the northeastern U.S., got a 1-2 punch that knocked us for a loop, and some snow this morning compounded the trouble for some of our residents, specifically those in Briarcliff Manor. We've been in regular contact with Con Edison daily and with our police department, and it seems as though all is almost back to normal. Thanks to our community organizations, our business owners that opened their doors to residents this past week, including Club Fit Briarcliff, the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce, Baza Salon, the Chico's in Millwood, and Mike Risco Music School. Your generosity is a great inspiration, and we're proud to call you neighbors and friends. Again, big thanks to our town and village highway, parks, and DPW staff, for some of whom are here tonight. Thanks for braving the elements to keep our roads clear, and to our cemetery staff as well, and also to the stellar Ossining Police Department for their efforts in coordinating our Con Ed municipal liaison and keeping us all informed of the recovery process and progress. Chief Sylvester's here tonight, and we owe him a special thank you, along with Lieutenant Slater and Montague, who worked long hours to make sure our unincorporated area residents got restored as quickly as possible and that everyone stayed safe in the process. Don't forget to mark your calendars for our March 20th Town Hall meeting taking place at the Ossining Public Library's Boudars Theater. The town has invited a series of guests to speak with us about some green initiatives. We will be getting updates from Green Ossining to hear about the Green Ossining Sustainability Partnership and a sneak peek at Earth Day 2018, and our Environmental Advisory Committee, who will be sharing information on chemical-free lawn care. Save a Tree, and Donna Sharrett, who will be joining us to talk about the tree inventory we conducted, which was paid for by an urban forestry grant from New York State, as well as best practices for caring for trees on your property. And we will be getting an update on the CCA, Community Choice Aggregation Program, from Dan Welsh of Sustainable Westchester. It's going to be a lot of information, so we will begin the meeting at 7 p.m. instead of the usual 7:30. I hope you'll mark your calendars and plan to join us on Tuesday, March 20th, at the Ossining Public Library for this informative, environmentally friendly session. Bring your own sippy cups, whatever they're called. March is Women's History Month, and the Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series has a perfect screening lined up for Thursday, March 15th, The Empowerment Project. It's a one-of-a-kind documenting the 7,000-mile journey of women filmmakers featuring the remarkable work of women leaders from a variety of sectors across the country. This documentary is family-friendly, so be sure to bring your daughters and sons along to experience all that women can accomplish. Next weekend is St. Patty's Day, and the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a trolley pub haul on Friday, March 16th, stopping at some of Ossining's best: Terra Rustica, Flames, The Briars, Maya Riviera, and the Boathouse. So a little focus on the unincorporated town assets this week. Tickets are still available and must be purchased by this Thursday. Be sure to visit the Chamber's website for more information. Also on Friday, March 16th, the Bethany Arts Community, housed in the former Maryknoll Brothers building on Somerstown Road, will be hosting their first local artists exhibition. Come check out this beautifully restored space and meet the fantastic folks who have chosen to make Ossining their new home. If you're looking for more local art, the Ossining Arts Council and Westchester Collaborative Theater have teamed up once again for the next several weeks to present their Living Art event at the Steamer Firehouse on Main Street. This opened last weekend, but there are still opportunities to catch this Ossining collaboration over the next few weekends before it closes on March 24th. Visit wctheater.org to learn more. On Saturday, March 24th, the Town and Village of Ossining will be co-sponsoring a March to End Gun Violence event at Lewis Angle Park between 12 noon and 2 p.m. There will be similar marches taking place around Westchester, the state, and the nation, so consider taking a stand against what seems to be an epidemic in our nation. and meeting your neighbors at the waterfront next Saturday for this important and unifying community event. You wouldn't know it by looking outside, but spring is headed our way, and fast. I hope you'll join us for Egg Extravaganza on Saturday, March 31st at Ryder Park at 10 a.m. or Nelson Sitting Park at 12 noon for an egg hunt, and even a chance to meet and take photos with the Big Bunny. Dust off your Easter baskets and hope the snow melts soon, and watch for the flowers to start peeking out of the ground, ushering a beautiful spring weather for this annual community favorite. If the snow doesn't melt, there is a plan B. Although I think it actually did melt today, the Joseph Caputo Community Center will host the egg hunt at a time to be determined. Check back with the village and the town for updated info as Extravaganza gets closer. I also just wanted to mention that I had an opportunity to attend a meeting with the United States Postal Service about the lackluster distribution of mail that seems to be taking place in Westchester County. There were representatives from Senator Schumer's office, Congresswoman Lowy's, Congressman Engel's office, Congressman Mahoney's office, and it was a very interesting meeting. They are well aware of multiple levels of problems in distribution of the mail. And our community is on the list, and even more so since I had the opportunity to attend that meeting. So I hope that we will hear more from them. We will get some, I think that the new postmaster in Ossining recently hosted an event which we did not know about, but I'm hoping that they will host another sort of a meet and greet in the community to give everybody an opportunity to meet the new postmaster and speak about any issues that you may have or concerns that you may have. But they are working on some new technology which will hopefully help them, and there were lots of suggestions, and kudos to Senator Schumer for really and Congresswoman Lowy for really pushing for this meeting, and I think that we may hear more about additional public meetings in the near future. I also had an opportunity to attend the Westchester Urban County Council meeting at the county building, 148 Martin Avenue, with County Executive Latimer, who is reorganizing for those communities that want to participate, the Westchester Urban County Consortium, so that we will once again have access to the Community Development Block Grant funding, which had basically been blocked for the last 8 years because of the prior county executives' stand on the approach to the housing monitor, federal housing monitor, and the affordable housing and policies that are available in each of the communities in Westchester County. So I'm very excited to report that to the extent possible, we are going to participate in this consortium as long as we have the approval of our board, which I can't imagine that they wouldn't approve, and pursue elements of this consortium so that we have access to funding for infrastructure projects and programming in our community. And IFCA is going to be happy about that too, because I know that I'm sure it'll be in some applications for that or proposals. And that's it for me. I think we're up to anybody who has additional announcements, and then we can go right into liaison reports.
I could do liaison. We'll do liaison. I'll wait for liaison report.
Okay. Does anybody have any announcements? Yes. Okay, go ahead for liaison reports.
Okay. First, I just wanted to thank all the volunteer firemen, Ossining, Briarcliff, and the policemen as well, for all that they've given during these storms and keeping the public safe and just being there for their communities. I know it was a lot of hours they spent, and I just wanted to thank them on behalf of all of us for all that they do give each and every day, and especially over the last couple of weeks, above and beyond. It's appreciated. But good news, there is a sign that spring is on the way. The Ossining Boat and Canoe Club is having its first membership meeting of the year tomorrow, Wednesday, March 14th. If you've ever thought about keeping a kayak, sailboat, or a motorboat on the Hudson River, now is the time to do it. Anyone who's interested in joining can go to the website at obcc.org and click on membership. And, you know, you can join even as early as tomorrow. For those of you who don't know what the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club is, it's a community group that's worked together for over 100 years to provide affordable access to the Hudson River for our community. By working together, keep it affordable. The work parties start this Saturday and every Saturday thereafter, so if you ever want to come down and take a look and join and have a tour, come on down any Saturday, and I'm sure there'll be somebody to show you around and talk to you about, what opportunities there are for you.
Great. Additional liaison report? Want to talk at all about rec advisory? Okay. Trying to think if I wanted to talk about that. I will just mention that I did have the opportunity to attend the Recreation Advisory Board meeting last night. We are still seeking additional volunteers to serve on that board. I think we need 2 from unincorporated.
One
One
from
from Briarcliff.
One from Briarcliff.
One from Briarcliff and one from unincorporated. And so we'll probably put out another include that in our next e-blast to remind everybody if you're interested in participating. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention is that we do anticipate a new superintendent of recreation and parks being hired by the village to start on April 2nd. So hopefully we'll have more information for everybody about that in the near future. Just trying to think if there's anything else specific. I think that's it for those announcements. I think we're just going to move, unless nobody else had anything, right? We're going to move into our our departmental reports. I got developmental on the mind. Departmental reports. And I think we have our Chief Sylvester is going to talk to us a little bit, probably give us a little bit of an update as to how everything went and worked. And I just want to thank you again for being such great partners in all the storm recovery efforts, and it was really very, very much appreciated.
Sure, thank you for that. It's been a rough couple of weeks. We've been at extra staff for I think 14 straight days now, so it's definitely a credit to the men and women that are out there doing the job. I mean, they're really the people that make this happen. It's an honor for me to be able to drive around and sort of be a liaison for Con Ed and the Con Ed liaison in order to connect our residents literally with power from time to time. So it was a nice experience to be able to be there for the final moments when people's lights go on, but it's been a struggle for the last couple of weeks. And we're grateful for all the patience that people had with us. For tonight's report, I wanted to give you a little bit of a recap on 2017 and give you a little bit of insight in what we're doing in 18. In 2017, we answered 29,431 calls for service. Believe it or not, that's down significantly from past years. This year, we adopted a policy where we eliminated certain call types because we determined that those tasks could be established through direct oversight from supervisors. So a lot of stuff was managed in a way that's not necessarily my favorite way. So when you compare statistics to years past overall for Ossining, those are going to be down just a bit. Doesn't necessarily indicate a change in how we do business, just how we document things. 579 arrests, including penal law, vehicle and traffic, and all local ordinances, with 42 DWI arrests altogether. In 2017, we participated in different campaigns for Autism Awareness Month. We did No Shave November, some of us better than others. Also in November, we did a domestic violence collection to benefit My Sister's Place, which I think is going to be an ongoing partnership that we're doing. We're looking forward to some domestic violence events throughout the year to raise awareness and to get some extra training for our department. On the educational front, we participated in Career Day at Pace University, where, full disclosure, I do sit on the faculty there, so it's a favorite spot of mine. We also took 3 interns from that school, so we're glad to have a partnership with a local college. This year, we participated several times in book distribution with the Ossining Union Free School District with the Bookmobile, also sponsored by the United Way, and that's been a lot of fun for us, and we're glad that Superintendent Sanchez will invite us along. Another year of DARE graduation, where we put the entire 5th grade through that. In training, we went through our standard stuff with firearms and CPR and first aid and legal updates, sexual harassment, defensive tactics, and use of force. We also conducted a department-wide multi-jurisdictional active shooter training, and this goes back to last year, but obviously very relevant in the news today. So ahead of all the news that's been going on, and I know that it's never really out of our news, just to highlight for the community that it's something we've been doing and working with the neighboring jurisdictions in order to make sure that everybody's up to speed on all the procedures for that. Operationally, we conducted child seat safety installation days, drug take-back days. You may have seen in the news when Officer Ryan Tompkins, off-duty, had pulled a woman from an overturned car on 9A a few months ago. We had in-depth operations into massage parlors this year and still going on. 2 of those closed down, and we'll continue to look into all of those type of establishments. In the winter, we were fortunate to partner with Target and a few local businesses for Operation Making Spirits Bright, where we did traffic enforcement with the added benefit of handing out some gift cards and toys for children. And events this year, we had 4 coffees with a cop, participation in the Yonkers Puerto Rican Day Parade. We had Dunk a Cop at the Village Fair. We won the Atria Chef Showdown. This year was our first inaugural PBA 5K at Cedar Lane Park. We were glad to have participation and cooperation from the town for that. We're looking forward to another year, which may or may not include Chase the Chief this year. That's a new one. I got to get training. We did trunk or treat on Halloween. We went 1 and 2 with softball, winning against the Lions and losing to the COs of Sing Sing and the OFD, but all of which raising funds for scholarship funds for students at Ossining High School, and we're really excited about that. Cops and kids, we played softball and kickball and capture the flag and any other game that any kids could find and wanted to do with a cop. And we had 3 movies in the park this year. We're proud this year that we won a Best of New York award for social media and community engagement. And in 2018, we're currently in the middle of, today was the second day, we're running the entire department through implicit bias training, which is a program recommended by the White House 2 years ago for all police departments under the 21st Century Policing Project. We're fortunate to have gotten some money from in our budget this year to conduct that, so we've brought in a nationally recognized lecturer for that program, and so far it's really received pretty good reviews from the staff, so we're excited about that. We're also looking forward to filling some empty staffing positions, and we're continuing to work with Westchester County to ensure that town residents will be included in that canvas list. So as of now, I have 4 vacancies, and we're looking forward to the summer academy class, which comes up in August, and being able to fill all those spots.
Wonderful. That's fantastic. Well, thank you for that very, very short but lengthy, action-packed update. You guys have been up to a lot and a lot of good stuff, and I think just in general, we appreciate the proactive, positive messaging that you're putting out there, and working with all different parts of our community to make yourselves as accessible as you possibly can be. I will also just mention that I had the opportunity yesterday to visit the county for the Immigrant Protection Act. I believe was passed last night, although I actually wasn't there for the final vote count, but I'm pretty sure that there were enough sponsors of the bill that would have made it pass. So that was pretty exciting, and I hope that we'll continue to work closely and proactively with our, in general, our total population of Ossining to make sure that everybody feels safe and protected and people don't have to hide. So thank you again for that update and all the good stuff that you guys are doing, and we hope you can continue to do it well with our collaboration and cooperation.
We'll do our best.
Have a great night, and
Thank you.
unless anybody has any questions for the chief.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks so much. All right, so thanks for that. And also we have here tonight our engineering team of our town and village engineer, Paul Fraioli, and our water superintendent, Angie Teese, to discuss some of our projects that they've been working on with us. And also, we've invited our highway superintendent, Michael G. O'Connor, to join us for the portion of the presentation that pertains to McCarthy Drive Restoration Project, as well as a couple of other items. Mr. Fraioli, welcome.
Good evening.
Hi.
Supervisor and council members. We're not going to do a retrospective on anything we worked on last year. We're going to talk about a few of the projects that the team is going to work on next year. So we talked
Maybe
about
a tiny bit of a retrospective, because we're going to talk about one project that was complete, right? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
just one.
So I think what would be best, because we are going to jump around a lot with different areas, that we go through our course with the 3 of us presenting, and then I think Andy's going to go last, and I think that's the one that's going to probably stimulate the most conversation, and then we'll just take it from there with regard to questions. But that's entirely up to you at the chair. So I'd like to start by talking a little bit about one project that's planned for this summer. The highway superintendent would like to pave Hawks Avenue. Hawks Avenue, where it runs from its intersection with Kitchewan Road right around 9A all the way to the Newcastle border, is just around 3,000 linear feet, about 25 feet wide, most areas over there. And one of the things that we talked about when we went and visited was the condition of the road and what would be necessary to do a restoration. For many years, I think the task that took place there was overlay pavement just to get rid of the rutting and the potholes. We really can no longer afford to do that. The road is in need of a restoration, which would require taking out some of the existing asphalt that's been laid there over the last 20 or 30 years and reconstructing. What we propose to do, which is, it's not that new, but it's a fairly new technology compared to old technology, which is milling the road, getting rid of the millings and bringing in new binder and new top course. There's a technology out there now called road reclamation. And what it does is it comes through and it chews up the existing road bed into a fine granular material. It injects it with calcium chloride and it lays the new material back out and establishes a new road bed with that old material, hence the reclamation name, because they're recycling that material and placing it right on the spot. It's much more cost effective than the other way, which is milling all of that material out, getting rid of it off site, which may be beneficially reused somewhere else, but not here. And then going through and putting a new binder course and then a top course on top of that. That could run you, and we just estimated based on the linear footage, that could run you in excess of $250,000 if you did it that way. But we went out, gotten some prices if we do a reclamation of the existing road bed to create your binder course, and then putting a new pavement, which would have to be imported in and placed on top of that course when that is completed, for probably about $100,000 less. So right around right around $160,000 to $170,000 is what we anticipate is the budget for the Hawks Avenue project. But that remains on the full scope and ultimately what the board gives the direction to do. Some of that money can be offset with CHIPS, and then we would have to come to you for the additional funds out of the highway budget. I would coordinate that with the highway superintendent. The second project I'm going to talk about is the McCarthy Drive project. Last time I was in front of you all, I gave you some of the, I presented to you some of the preliminary survey work that was done in that area. Since that survey work, we went and visited the site, and we talked about the scope necessary to create a new road and also accomplish some of the utility work that's required prior to placing new pavement on top of what would be the newly constructed road. Generally speaking, that road is not what Hawks is. Hawks has a lot of years of blacktop over and over and over, but did have a sub-base. McCarthy really doesn't have an appropriate sub-base, so that's another full reconstruction of a road that needs to take place, which is okay because there's much utility work that needs to be done in that road that would require a lot of excavation of that road anyway. One of the main utility that needs to be done before the road is rebuilt is stormwater. Stormwater scope for McCarthy was what we discussed when we did our walkthrough once we had all the surveys in place. And I guess what we're falling with this is, just with like most projects, you could really, it could have no endpoint. You could take care of all of the town's stormwater issues all the way to the town limits where it discharges into the Hudson, or very similar to what I explained when we went over the surveys last time, and similar to what we did on Cedar Lane and what we did in a couple places in the village. You can kind of address some of the stormwater mitigation right on the spot there to try to prevent some of that stormwater migration to other areas where it's causing problems downstream. So I think we're going to find a happy medium. We went through it with the engineer, we walked it with the superintendent and the supervisor, and I think where we're falling right now with the proposal that we're yet to receive the final version of from the engineer is a reconstruction of that road that includes stormwater improvements at McCarthy, some miscellaneous areas off McCarthy that require some improvements because they're receiving stormwater right now, and while we're in the area doing stormwater improvements, we may as well include those. But it's primarily going to be focused in the McCarthy area, and then some areas where the stormwater and other utilities are tributary to those systems. Another utility component there that we're going to accomplish during this project is the water main replacement for the village. That's going to be included in the scope of design and construction, but the cost will be absorbed by the village's water fund based on the additions, the IMA that exists right now between between the village and the town's governments. So those will be in place, and we'll do all the paperwork necessary to make that happen with your council when we put the contract documents together. The last component on there was I wanted to thank Sandy and Margaret from the town building and planning department, because they did a tremendous amount of work in locating all the easement documentation that we're going to need to have when we put these contract documents together, because we will be creating stormwater remediation measures and encroaching on private parcels. So that's necessary to have, and I think we're going to, based on first blush, we're going to be able to do everything we need to do within the existing easements, so there won't be much work for council to do in these contract documents, but there will be some. So we're looking forward to designing that project this year. The village will secure the approval from the village board for the water main component in this year's presentation of our capital budget for 19, and 19 at the end of this year we will come to you to present the anticipated budget for your 2019 capital consideration. At this point, I want to turn it over to Michael G. He's going to talk about 2 other road projects, and then we're going to go to Andy to talk a little bit.
Do you want to ask, can we ask you questions, or were you saying we should wait till questions at the end? Because I'd like to have questions now.
Some of these do mesh together, including some of the stuff that Andy talks about. It's up to you if you want to ask me.
I'd rather just ask questions as we go, because otherwise you start to forget.
Okay.
I was just wondering, with the rebuilding of Hawks Avenue, is there going to be any, with the construction going on where Bill Daddy's building those houses, is that going to interfere with the integrity of the new road with the heavy construction equipment? Is there a time consideration with that?
I don't believe so. I mean, there's some place where he interfaces with the development there, on the road rather.
Right.
He has to come into the road for utility connection and what have you, but we will work around that accordingly.
You're just saying with all the heavy vehicles going over
the new pavement and the
new pavement, it makes more sense to wait till after that's done.
I mean, we're going to build it to build it, whether we wait.
I'm just asking if it would cause a brand new road, don't want to ruin it immediately.
Yeah, that's not the intent. I mean, I would feel comfortable paving it and drive on the pavement, and it will be built to handle that type of traffic.
All right, well, we can maybe get a little bit more.
Again, that's up to you.
I have a question, since I have a particular focus on bike lanes and connectivity. I'm wondering if while we're redoing Hawks, if we can stripe it with a bike lane. In fact, it's wide enough. I believe it might be.
Right now, I think it's about 26 feet. And with that, we could probably fit bike lane if we maybe spread it out on the edges a little bit more, which we probably have the ability to do based on the right-of-way. Quick look that I gave at some of the parcels there. But that's, again, something we could talk about, because it does a little bit more than just strictly striping it. We would have to appropriate signage and entrance and exiting from the bike lanes. I think those are all requirements that, quite frankly, I don't really have a firm enough handle on to say what can and can't be done in exact areas. I'd have to research that.
Okay. So look into that. And then in terms of McCarthy, I know that we haven't seen the designs, but to discuss it all, the width of the road, or approximately what the road itself is going to look like ultimately, what we're going to, it was my impression that we're going to just sort of try to model it after Millwood? More or less, similar?
I think what we talked about was finding a happy medium between making it as straight as possible maybe a little wider in areas where it's not as wide as other areas, with as little impact to some of the details that residents have constructed in the right-of-way presently, like landscaping details and statuary, and there's also some large trees that would, are inevitably going to come out during the construction. Most of the that type of tree removal and things like that are going to be part and parcel with some of the stormwater measures that we want to put under the ground. If we were just paving the road and that's all we were doing, it's really our contractor to come in and do it. We can just pave it.
Right.
We're doing significant utility work on this project, including the water main replacement. And everything else is underground there too, the cable, TV, and
Did we ever hear back from Con Ed if they were interested in gas out there? We didn't hear from them? Probably should reach out to them again, maybe next week, not this week. Okay, so I guess Michael G.
I had one more question, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering how well the road reclamation process holds up compared to other paving methods.
Fairly well from where I've seen it. They did it in when it was first introduced to me. They did it Newcastle, and that's holding up pretty well. They did it in a road where I live, and that seems to be holding up pretty well. And we did it not that long ago, but we did do it in Old Albany Post Road rehabilitation in the town, where the Old Albany Post Road
Where they
extension.
tore it up? Now, where Con Ed's torn it up?
No.
Oh, the dead end.
I'm sorry, the dead
the
end,
dead end.
right across from Gerlich Park over there, and it was really easy to work with. In that tight condition and where they would have had to do a lot of excavation and earthwork, they didn't have to do it. It's really, this tub machine is a neat operation to see, and it compacts well.
Okay.
It grades well, and at the end of the day, grading and drainage is what your road is going to be. That's what's going to determine your road life. That's what we're looking to do. We don't want to just slap a top course on there. We don't want to do that not just on Hawks. We don't want to do that on McCarthy either. We want to build the road and not be back in here again, in any of our.
Thank you. Any other
Thank you.
questions?
No, just be sure to notify Con Edison when you finish so they can cut it up.
Yeah. I've experienced that all too often in the village, but thank you for that.
I see it all the time.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, Madam Supervisor, board members. First point of the phone call was from my foreman. I have to run out of here and meet him at a sewer lift station where we have an alarm condition coming in. Sewer lift stations. Deerfield Foreign Court is being upgraded by the contractor of the new project on Hawks Avenue. New pumps and new backup generators will be installed. The old generator will be reinstalled at the other Deerfield lift station because this is a relatively new backup generator. It's there now, and our intention is to use it on the other Deerfield lift station. We also have, the town is in the process of accepting the Woods Condo lift station, and I've been working very closely with the engineer Dan Ciarci on that project. Andy and I will be continued meeting with all makes to develop our future capital project plan for our lift stations. Throwing back to just in the fall on Route 9A, 134 Croton Dam Road. New York State DOT finally replaced the stormwater culvert under the Croton Dam Road at Route 134. The old culvert had settled and broken our sanitary sewer line. Thankfully, the weight of the old culvert kept the sewage from being escaping. A new sewer manhole had to be installed, and about 150 feet of special high-strength sewer pipe had to replace the old pipe that runs under the new culvert that the state installed. And I've been out there for storms, and it appears to be working great. Croton Dam Road. We're looking at, just 50 feet west of that state project on Croton Dam Road, We replaced a rotted-out 36-inch stormwater pipe with three 24-inch new HD smooth-bore pipes. Removing the old pipe and concrete was a bit of a challenge. The new stone and concrete head walls were built, and the center pipe was installed at grade, and the other two pipes were just slightly 2 inches higher. And this is what they like to see done with these projects. So if there's any aquatic life that is moving through that waterway, they can get through it. By keeping the one pipe low and the other two pipes, any amount of little water we kept in the one pipe rather than trying to share that with the other pipes. This project had to wait for the state to start their project and put up all the detour signs. So we had to wait for the state all that time to get into it. I'm very proud of all the highway and park staff who worked on this project. Mateo was on top of every phase of this project. He made so many measurements, I couldn't believe it. Old Albany Post Road. The old field stone wall at the S-turn is falling apart. Paul, Dolph, myself, I think Supervisor was with us at one point, all reviewed the wall, both the falling sections and even the old patchwork that was done by Mateo. We all agreed that a hand-built rock wall would take a lot of time and that we should be considering a new Unilock wall system. We're aware that Bruce Friederito had built a new large Unilock wall on his property. We looked at this wall and have been using Bruce for advice and cost of the wall. I think we're all on one page on proceeding with plans for a Unilock wall system for the S-turn. And happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Same to you. Did you march on the parade last weekend in
I did
Sleepy
not.
Hollow parade? Were you in the Sleepy Hollow parade?
Yes, with my grandchildren, I was there.
Representing Ossining?
Representing Ossining. My
Fantastic.
sash says Ossining, New York.
Thank you very much for doing that. And happy St. Patty's Day to you too. Mr. Teese. Oh, I'm sorry. Were there any questions for Michael G. before we continue about any of the projects? No? Okay. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm going to take over from the project that Michael had just talked about at the Croton Dam Road intersection. So that project, we did install 40 feet of new 12-inch water main. We also installed six new 12-inch isolation valves at the intersection. If everybody remembers, back probably 4 or 5 years ago, we had a water break where 7,000 people had to boil their water. It was because we weren't able to isolate that intersection. Now we can, so it's that was a big improvement.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you for taking advantage of an opportunity.
It was a perfect opportunity.
Thank you.
Want to talk about a few water main projects that we have going on right now. So Gordon Avenue, last year we started construction at the Gordon Avenue road. We installed 850 feet of new water main, and 1,300 more feet will be installed this year, along with River Parkway. So in all, we'll have 1,200 feet of the water main still to be replaced. We had to look at the amount of breaks that happened on that road in the last 20 years, and we had to prioritize. We're like, this is already $1.5 million to do this section. You know, we're looking to put the money where it makes the most sense. The section we didn't do, that 1,200 feet, we've only had 2 water breaks, knock on wood, in the last 20 years, and it's an area that won't flood houses. So we're looking at what could compromise houses first. Water main that we pulled out was really bad. We did an analysis 3 years ago on the useful life of that pipe from the 40s, and it said it had 10 years left, but clearly we've had so many breaks, it's not lasting. So we're finishing Gordon Avenue, which we originally scoped out. We're finishing Riverview Parkway. And then one last thing that we added last year, designed it last year, but it'll start construction this year, is Ryder Avenue. 425 feet of new water main will be installed. That same house flooded out from that main. So we're looking at every avenue to secure that house. Another main that we've designed and we've sent in for health department approval is the 9A project. It's a 1,900 linear feet section of 12-inch main from Stormytown and Croton Dam Road. That was designed this year. It was put into the health department a few weeks ago, and if I get that approved within the next month, then we will go out to bid. That's the transmission main that goes into the creek by the cemetery along 9A, and that was this section that we lost 400,000 gallons a day of water, which was a big find for us. We could never find that water leak, and we found it, and not only does it save major money for the taxpayers, but it saves on the capacity of having to build the plant that much larger, because we are in the design 70% towards a new water filtration plant. McCarthy Drive project, that's going to be 2,000 linear feet of new water main. I will meet with the village board to make sure that they are on board with that approval for that to be put in the capital project for next year. That's a priority. The final thing is the spray park. So the spray park was designed for a recirculation system back in April of 2014 by Lothrop Associates. It went out to bid, and when it went out to bid, it was over $500,000 that it came in from only one bidder that bid on the project, which was a lot more than what the engineer's estimate was at the time. So we have annual bidders, and probably 90% of that job is excavation work. And last year we received a proposal from Fiorito, Anthony Fiorito Company, to install this new spray deck recirculation system. He used the existing drawings in 2014 and sent it to, so he bid on it, and the price came at $350,000, which was fine. It was a lot less than $500,000. So moving the project forward this year, he had sent these drawings to the actual spray deck company, which is called Vortec out of Canada, and they said this system's not going to work with this. You're going to need to drop this tank 12 feet, not 8 feet deep. Your elevations are incorrect. This needs to gravity feed totally to this tank, and if there's a rain situation, there's these rain diverters that need to allow the water to go out to the river, and this caused this whole project to have to put this tank an extra 4 feet into the ground, which is only about 100 feet from the river. So digging next to the river, you're fighting against the tide. You have walls collapsing. You're trying to put this tank into the ground. It has to be secured with concrete, and the cost went up. The cost went up $56,000, and it's not Fiorito's fault. It's that it wasn't caught from the beginning. So the price went from $350,000 to an addendum of another $56,000, and now it's starting to get to a point where what's the return on investment of this system, and it's going to take over 18 to 20 years to get this investment back. And I met with the supervisor and Maddie the last couple of days, and Paul, and it's a decision that as much as it's great to recirculate the water, it's a lot of money to recirculate this water. Not only does that have to be done, a new spray deck needs to be put down. That was ripped up years and years ago, and that situation is unsafe right now. And along with that, part of our research with looking at the records and looking at this project was built by the county. It was designed by the previous engineer, Jim Vinoli, who worked for the town, but he took care of just the backflow preventer, and then the actual county got the approvals for putting this system in back in 2004. There needs to be some upgrades to the electrical system, safety-wise, and that's a priority, and the spray deck, in my opinion, is a priority. The recirculation system is optional, and that's why I wanted to talk to you guys. It's good that this was caught here. It wasn't caught when Bruce had ordered the equipment, and then it's like, oh, just to let you know, it's an extra $56,000, and you're already with the shovel in the ground, and you're like, what do we do? So now's the time to catch it. I wish it didn't happen, but it happened.
All right.
Also, Paul did a little research today, and I want him to talk about what funding source was, what he found out.
Thank you, Andy. So, once this all started to come to light as we were going over that this week, I had,
We wanted to understand a little bit about what our exposure was, right? And we knew that there were a couple of things that I'm just going to
yeah,
start.
you know, we talk about this project. We often talk about some of the monies that were going to come in from Dormitory Authority from the state of New York through a grant given to us by Senator Carlucci's office. So I stopped by that office today just to get a little more detail after I received some of the original grant application work from the supervisor's office. And it's not unheard of to make a request when you're going through like the things that we're going through now and making these discoveries to potentially repurpose that money as long as it's, you know, somewhat relative to what you're trying to do. And we just did that in the village 2 times. We did some Senator Carlucci grant for some streetscape work that we actually used on another street because we originally asked for somewhere and they repurposed it to another streetscape project. And we did it with the fire department where it was originally, I think, $100,000 for the senator's office for a fire boat, and we ended up repurposing it to offset the cost of the most recent fire apparatus. So similar, in that same vein, we've started a very preliminary discussion because these things all have to be discussed in much detail. The potential to take what was originally submitted to the senator and DASNY for a $100,000 grant to offset, I think it was a cost of $280,000 estimated cost of construction for some solar panels and recirculating system down at the park. So we still are talking about improvements to the spray system, and it's still at Engle Park. So that will be what we will be presenting if the board chooses to go in the direction that Andy just referenced for me.
Anything else? No. Okay, so I'm just going to ask our, it seems that at this point, this project, which we tried our best to salvage from very, very high cost, is going to continue to plague us with more and more costs that seem to be beyond our ability to capture them all at the beginning. It is a complicated project, and Andy, I think you pointed out that this is an amenity, and I spoke with Councilwoman Shaw earlier today about, I don't know how often your kids use it, have used it in the past, and this is a very popular amenity in the town. There's no doubt, gets a great deal of use from people who live here as well as people who come and visit just for the purpose of using the spray park. And we love it. It's a great park, but it is a big, big, big chunk of money. And when we look at as great as we would love to spend it towards saving the water from just basically going into the Hudson River, which, as I understand it, is drinking water. That's what we're putting back into the Hudson River. So it is treated water, but it isn't the worst. It's not like we're dumping chemicals in. You want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Correct? Okay. I thought you wanted to say something. Okay.
Yeah, the residual is about 0.8 milligrams per liter, whereas a pool residual is over 3.0. So it's
Right. And I mean, when we were looking at this project, our plan was to save water. It was to not pay for water. We're recirculating the water. And there are costs also that we really haven't discussed about costs for the chemicals that we have to use to treat the water, for the labor to go and check on the quality of the water every day, for the electricity to run the recirculating system, and the one other thing. I feel like there was one other piece. And again, it looks like our return on investment is getting farther and farther and farther out. We would love to be able to do this project, but right now it just doesn't look like it doesn't look like an equation that we can adequately and feel comfortable about funding with town funds at this time. So I want to just get feedback from the board about that, where everybody stands.
Are we getting a grant? Were we getting a grant?
We were getting a $100,000 grant.
Now it's,
We've already
56.
spent, I will tell you that electric work was done to lay a high voltage line to go out there. So that was already money spent, which is part of the reason we tried to save the project and find a way to do it for less money. And because we thought it was a good project to do. But at this point, the costs just seem to be escalating beyond reasonableness.
what's this, the last one you just said, 56 or 100?
It was 56, it was 56,000, and then we
More.
also found out, and this is something that we're gonna probably still, we need to do a little bit more work on, but the new pad surface was coming in about $60,000 more than it was originally estimated, which was estimated at $20,000, and now it looks like it's gonna be $80,000. Now, that's probably something that we're going to pursue to use the grant for, which would be the new surface and the electrical work that needs to be done to make sure that any issues that were there from a safety perspective are addressed, that were discovered part of this process. So it's good that we went through this process, that we made these discoveries, and that we can make those fixes, and we would be hopeful that we could try to take care of those in time for the Spray Park to open, but I'm not making any promises about that. I'm just going to say we're going to do our best to do it, but I don't know that we can. Using our in-house labor or our annual bidder, the excavation that needs to be done for electrical work, and pulling up the concrete that would need to be pulled up, or looking at alternative surfacing that might be less expensive. This is where I think we should go, is to find an attractive and enjoyable surface for our kids, and anything else we can do to make it a great park, but without the recirculation.
Did you just say you could go back and ask?
Oh, yeah. We're going to try to get the money to be used for these other pieces.
That's what I was asking. Because if we're going to do that, we should not make it so finalized like it's dead, Let's try first. See where we go, if we can get the money.
Well, we're
don't
trying to
know.
get the money to not be used for the recirculating system anymore. We would use it for the pad. It's only $100,000. Are you saying we should ask for more money from the grant?
No, I'm not saying we should ask. I thought that's what he said.
No, he was saying to take the $100,000 that was supposed to be using for the recirculating system and instead use it for the new surface
I
and
get
the
you, I
electrical
get you.
work. Yeah, we're just wanting to see if can we repurpose it so that we can still do this other stuff that we need to do versus what we wanted to do.
I'm very disappointed. I mean, in the beginning, it was, they said it was going to be $100,000, and then it was $200,000, and then it just kept climbing and climbing.
Never 100. It was never 100,000.
Well, the concept way back when.
Well, it was 280 is where it
I
started.
can tell you what the original grant application consisted of. I think it was $280,000.
Was it 280? Okay.
For the project cost, right? So they asked for $100,000, and the project cost, even at that time at 280, was not inclusive of any town responsibilities with regard to electric supply to the system. So that we
So
found
didn't-
out.
so that-
was-
Okay.
right,
Whatever
so we're
amount of
already
money
into-
that was already
we're
spent
already into
above
300.
and beyond.
Right. We're
Already.
Right, so
and
now
that,
we're
and that was
at a
also,
half a
that was
million?
also $2013, $2013, whenever it was. So
Now we're over $500,000.
Did it now, it'd be well over $500,000.
Yeah, I think we have other priorities in our town that, I mean, I'm disappointed. I really wanted to recirculate the water. I don't, I would have loved the expanded hours.
Absolutely.
I don't know that we can really justify to our taxpayers the $500,000 price tag as much as I want to. We can continue to explore other options, but that's beyond my capability.
I
reasoning.
guess, I think, I can't remember
finances.
who said it, but I think it was Councilwoman Dottori said, hopefully there'll be some really great technology that comes up within the next 13 years or 18 years of payback that we can find a way to do this much easier and less expensively than the way that it's currently.
Got to be a better system on the horizon.
The engineering that it would take to do it right now.
Our
Come on,
water.
Andy, invent something.
Yeah, we started thinking outside the box. Like last year, as we saw these numbers coming up, we received a grant from New York City's DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, because we're the 10th largest user of the New York City water system north of New York City. And I applied to see if we could use this because the funding is for leak detection, saving water, and they wouldn't use it for this fund because we could use that anywhere for that water main, that water main that runs along 9A that's going to cost over $1 million. We're going to probably take 100,000 of that and use it towards the water main. But it would have been nice to use it for this project, but they wouldn't allow us. So it's unfortunate. It's like the right thing to do, but it's not the right business thing to do. That's as simple as I could make it sound.
Comments from the side of the...
I mean, it's a high-cost project for something that's seasonal, and that's the bottom line. I just don't see how we justify those numbers.
You know, it's not different than you know, a lot of green technology or doing things. You do have to weigh the cost benefit. So solar can be a great thing, but if it's going to take you 20 years to get your return on investment and you don't have the cash up front, it's just really, really difficult to justify, and this is public funds, so I don't think we have the luxury of making that kind of decision, especially when there are some additional costs, carrying cost of recirculating that we hadn't really thought about. So at the end of the day, it would have been better, but I don't think that the option we have now is really horrible. So we're certainly not harming the river in any way. We're still providing a really valuable service to people in the community with young kids on especially when we have those 100-degree days. And I think it's the best solution right now.
All right. We all general agreement that we're going to provide this recirculation, that we're going to say goodbye to this recirculation plan, and we are going to look for a nice surfacing instead, and a safe park that can be enjoyed for many, many years. And hopefully, like we said, the technology will improve and get a lot less expensive in the next 5 or 10 years, and we can revisit a way to do this, or the next time we have to replace the pad and we have to pull that up, there'll be another opportunity to look at it again.
Are there
Thank you,
different
guys.
options in pads? Are we
There are, and we're going to explore those. And we're not settled yet on what we're going to do for the padding.
I think maybe then in summary, the next time we come back, we'll probably have those alternatives for you and maybe even have some positive news from the senator's office, but I don't want to look too far ahead.
I hope it's not too far ahead. I hope it's like tomorrow that you're coming back and talking to us about this. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So, where are we?
Do we have any public comment on any agenda items? Okay, we can start your board resolutions. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austining hereby approves the February 27, 2018 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Austining hereby approves the March 6, 2018 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Do we have a motion?
Second. So moved.
Second.
Second.
Jumping the gun. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved that the Town Board hereby approves the voucher detail report dated March 13, 2018, in the amount of $6,770.27 for 2017 and $273,505.83 for 2018, grand total of $280,276.10.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the Captain Lawrence Brewing Company, 6 Degrees of Separation, and Sing Sing Kill Brewery are each authorized to operate a concession stand during the Earth Day event held on April 21st, 2018, at the Lewis Engle Waterfront Park in the town of Ossining, and to sell, for consumption by persons over 21 years of age, at the event, the company's beer products. Captain Lawrence Brewing Company, 6 Degrees of Separation, and Sing Sing Kill Brewery will obtain, with consent from the town, all necessary permits, including an event permit from the New York State Liquor Authority, and will provide proof of insurance and the letter of indemnity to the town in a form acceptable to counsel to the town.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
So this has become an annual resolution for us, but this year it's a bit more exciting. We'll have not one, not two, but 3 breweries represented at Earth Day on April 21st. Thanks so much to Susie Ross for her hard work to get this annual celebration together, and it has truly become the envy of all of Westchester. We look forward to seeing all of you down at Engle Park on the 21st of April, which is Earth Day. Don't forget, and come on down for all the festivities. Oh, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Sorry about that.
Resolved that the supervisor be and hereby is authorized and directed to execute an agreement with SPCA of Westchester for the period January 1, 2018 to December 31, 2018, providing for humane procedures for homeless and stray dogs and cats seized by dog control officers, animal control officers, police, and other agents of the municipality.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
So if you were unable to join us at last week's work session, you can take a look at it on YouTube. But we did invite SPCA Director Shannon Lockoff to discuss the fantastic work that the SPCA is doing in our community. And she also gave us a brief update on their rehabilitation plans for the facility that's scheduled to break ground in 2019. We're very fortunate to have such a dedicated service organization in Ossining. It does serve all of Westchester, and I'm pleased to continue our work with them. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
In accordance with the appropriate provisions of law, Ms. Patricia Cunningham J. Ossining is hereby reappointed to the position of Deputy Receiver of Taxes for 2018 by the Receiver of Taxes of the Town of Ossining, bearing the title and full responsibilities of such position and serving at the pleasure of the Receiver of Taxes.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign a tri-party agreement with the Village of Ossining and with Everytown for Gun Safety Action Fund, Inc., outlining the agreed-upon regulations and insurance requirements for the March for Our Lives planned for 12 noon at Lewis Engle Park on Saturday, March 24th, 2018.
Do we have a motion?
So move.
Second.
A discussion? Want to add something, Councilwoman Feldman, to our discussion about this?
Okay, the verbiage went out of my head. Just that the town is looking forward to providing a safe place for all the people who feel strongly that they want to gather and support this nationwide event, and that we are happy to provide a safe place for people to gather where they can feel free to express their thoughts and come together
Peacefully.
peacefully.
And we did adopt a resolution last week saying as much. This is actually just putting a contract together with this organization that is hosting these so that we can obtain insurance coverage for the town. Perfect. So that's why we have it here, and I believe that the village has it on their agenda, I'm hopeful, for tomorrow night, so that we can then move forward with obtaining insurance, but we did need to have a contract. So, questions, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
There is no correspondence to be received and filed. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby accepts the following monthly reports for the month of February 2018. Town Clerk's Office, Town Supervisor's Office, GE Helicopter Report, Dale Cemetery, Town Tax Receiver's Office, and Town Building Department.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
And we are up to visitor recognition, and we have some visitors. Would you like to be recognized? Because now would be the time if you would like to. Come on up and introduce yourselves. Hi, good evening.
I know half of you here. You guys probably know my husband, Dave Whitlinger. He was here last week. I'm Laura Whitlinger. I'm an Ossining resident, and I'm just here to chat. Don't have an ask or anything. I just wanted to open up by saying we moved to Ossining for a couple of reasons. One, we were in the city, and I was Googling like crazy. I knew I wanted to live in the Hudson River Valley because it looked like the Columbia River Valley. And I'm from Oregon, where it's very green. So Hudson River Valley was my first choice. And we picked Ossining because of Green Ossining, Susie Ross, who was putting together Earth Day, and because the previous town supervisor, Sue Donnelly, had allowed chickens and bees, and now we keep chickens and bees both. And because of the emphasis on parks, which I'm happy to see, Dana, you are continuing that legacy, especially with the green spaces. And also because it's close to T-Town, and we really enjoy outdoors nature. We take a strong stance on environmental positions. And when we moved to Ossining, we wanted to give back. So we joined, aside from just doing PTA activities and sports, my husband serves on the board for the Open Door, and he's also on the benefit committee. No, that's me. He's on the advisory board for T-Town to help them stay modern and up to date on some of their IT infrastructure. I serve on the board for the Bryant Youth Alliance. We run the SHIELD programs in the schools in Ossining, and I also served on the advisory board for T-Town, and I'm on the Ossining Board of Ethics. So we are fully immersed in our community, and we love it, and always thank you guys for the work you do. So since we moved to Ossining, we're like the last property on Ossining. The guy next to us is half in Newcastle, half in Ossining. And since we moved here, we immersed ourselves in our community and in our neighborhood. And one of the things we learned is that our neighbors really like their privacy. You know, we all live back in the woods because we don't want to deal with people after we've been in the city all day. So we're very private back there. And the only time we ever communicate with our neighbors is when there's a disaster, like when a tree falls in bad weather. What?
Can you just say your address, because you didn't actually mention that at the beginning?
207 Cedar Lane.
Thank you.
Right behind Cedar Lane Park.
There you go.
Which has made a lot of improvements. The dog park's great. And the Shine House, our kids go to art classes there and love it. That was another great addition to Ossining. So, but anyway, we help our neighbors out when like a tree falls, when you need a jump start, but that's pretty much the only time we ever see each other. And then we had the good fortune a few years ago of having a beloved neighbor and philanthropist, David Swope, bring us all together at his house for what's called a Sunday supper. And I think you heard him talk about at the memorial. He would just bring kind of random groups of people together to put ideas together and do kind of a think tank. And it was always amazing when you walked out of there because you realized you had been perfectly manipulated into doing something to further one of his goals. So when we met, there were like 15 families, and we were all from like Yorktown, Newcastle, Cortland, and Ossining, and nobody really knew each other. And basically in that evening, it was a beautiful summer evening, we had a view of Manhattan. The Greater T-Town Defense Alliance was formed because we learned of all these different developments that were going on in our communities that impacted us. And none of these developments were actually in Ossining, but they all border. And I'm sure you guys are well aware of some of them. So anyway, that's they don't affect Ossining except for terms of impact of traffic and things like that. So, and one of them, as you know, because my husband spoke on it, is the Sunshine Home. And they are expanding to become like a 147,000 square feet, which is like twice the size of a Club Fit, if you've been to Club Fit. It's going to be a very large building, and it's going to impact us, and we're concerned about it. And so we've been fighting this for now 3 years, and we've had to endure a lot of nonsense. And I'm not going to repeat any of that because I know my husband sent you a letter that you can read. But just last week, we learned, for instance, that the Westchester County Department of Health had approved the project without even seeing the final plans. And so they learned that the water requirements that they had asked for weren't correct either. And that was another concern. And like, it's just this ongoing thing where we keep learning more because so much has been withheld. And we keep asking for transparency and for communication. And God, we've had to foil, and we've had to foil a ridiculous amount just to get any information at all that's correct. So one of the things, for example, they weren't forthcoming with the New York State Department of Health when they submitted an application to them. And I have, so we combed through that. We foiled, and we were like, this is nothing like the application that's in front of Newcastle. I'm not going to read you all of it. I can send you the chart because we don't have time, but One example is they told the Department of Health that it would only be an 88,456 square foot facility, but the application in front of Newcastle is a 147,000 square foot facility. They also told, and this is my favorite one, that there is no public controversy concerning the environmental aspects of this project. So those are some of the things that are going on. So if you ever wonder why we come off a little angry sometimes or a little frustrated, it's because we are. Every time we raise a concern or a falsehood or prove a falsehood, we get poo-pooed or called NIMBYs. So I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us and to listen to my husband. It was a big deal. It was monumental. You know, we sent out an email afterwards to the members, and we're like, you know, we were heard for the first time. Nobody called us names, and that was really nice. And so thank you for that. I also, I mentioned earlier that I serve on the Ossining Town Board of Ethics, and I don't do that because I'm some high and mighty justice queen. I do it because I'm lazy. I tend to want to do what is easy sometimes and not always what is right. So in order to reinforce the fact that it's important to do what's right, I surround myself with people like on the Board of Ethics who will question everything and make the right decisions. I'm an ombudsman at my companies to ensure that processes and policies are followed, because sometimes it is easier just to say, just do it, just get it done. And we're all so busy. And so, you know, when I discuss these things and when I think about them, you do a lot of defining, and it's very often that integrity is associated with ethics, but there's a nuance to integrity that I wanted to discuss with you. True integrity is defined by both competence and consistency. For instance, this building we are in has integrity. It bears its own weight without falling down or breaking apart. It withstands its own stress. And a process has integrity as well when it repeatedly delivers consistent and reliable results. And in order for a process to work, every person on every board must be trusted to deliver what they agreed upon when they accepted the position they are in. In the case of the Sunshine Home, there has been zero integrity from the Newcastle ZBA, from the Newcastle Town Supervisor, and from the Sunshine Home and its legal team. This is what we are asking for. Integrity and transparency, and that's all. And we shouldn't have to hunt these things down. We shouldn't have to foil every single document. We should not be in charge of making sure all agencies are communicating with one another for proper information, which is what we have been doing. For instance, when the Sunshine Home came to Ossining last month seeking water, we foiled. And we did that because they had sworn up and down to us that there was enough water for what they had. And they put that information in front of a state Supreme Court judge. And if that information isn't correct, we need to know. It's important. It's important for our case. So that's why we're foiling. We don't hate you. We're not being vicious. We're just like, wow, we're having trouble getting the communication we need to ensure that all processes are followed and that there is integrity in these processes. So we are furious that it's gone this far, and you know, we should be furious, and you know, you should too. And I know most of you all well enough to know that you have the best intentions. I think everybody has good intentions, but intentions and outcome aren't the same thing. So, you know, and you can, as an example, like look at what happened in Flint, Michigan. The intention of saving $5 million cost more than 8,000 children their health and some of their lives. And for us, it's not worth risking Ossining's drinking water because of good intentions. That's where we stand. We're not NIMBYs. We just want to make sure everybody is safe and the process and policies are followed for public safety. And thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for hearing us out. We appreciate it. And thank you for the good work you do.
Hi, my name's Karen Wells. I live at 28 Appleby Farm Road. I am a member of the Greater Teatown Defense Alliance. And I wanted to introduce myself and invite any of the council members to reach out to me. If you have any questions about the work we're doing or any activities you would like to have within the Greater Teatown community. Some people don't realize, but the Greater Teatown community is made up of 4 different municipalities. Ossining is one of them, but also Yorktown, Cortland, and Newcastle. And Greater Teatown acts as a wonderful amenity, not just for the residents who live there, but for the Austining residents who participate in programs there. And from even further away than Austining, the folks who come to run in our community, to hike in the community. We get quite a few fishing people in our community. We also, through the Teatown Lake Reservation being there, we have a number of children who come into our community for camp. We love the rural nature of Greater Teatown, and we feel that that rural nature really acts as an advantage for those, not just the residents, but for those who come into the community to enjoy nature that would be difficult to find outside and so close to areas that are commutable to New York City. So as we went through this last storm, we also were reminded that part of the impact of having all these lovely trees and being somewhat rural in nature, depending on well water, we get hit pretty hard. So when we lose electricity, we lose water, which means, amongst other things, you can no longer flush your toilet unless you're filling up buckets. And we do have some amusing photos from different people on their bucket filling procedures. But during the storm, most of the community was out of electricity from the beginning. We started to get it back about a week after. Most of the community was back up and running after about 10 days. Even today, we had outages during the day. Teatown itself was without electricity. Teatown Road, Summer Spring Valley Road. At the same time, during this storm, there were occasions where parts of our roads were completely blocked. There was no way off of certain roads. There was a time period where I couldn't actually get beyond certain sections of my street, and that was not, unfortunately, a unique situation. But we accept it because we love the rural community. We feel it is a valuable asset, not just as a recreational amenity, but also as a means of protecting water, not just Austin's water, but also New York City's water and Croton-Harmon's water. Overall, we protect the integrity of water for over 6.8 million people by keeping this community rural. So the combination of the amenities we provide to the communities, the protections we provide to the watersheds, and the nature of what happens when there's an emergency situation in Greater Teatown, such as the 2 fires we had during this outage, that one fire, in fact, burned for over 5 hours. And this is a community that in many parts, the vast majority of Greater Teatown does not have fire hydrants. So we were quite grateful that it was snowy and wet. But one thing that did stand out in our minds, and we are concerned about, we do not feel this is a safe place for hospitals. But we do feel it's a wonderful way to protect Austin's water. We also feel that there are appropriate ways to develop the community that keeps this a valuable amenity for everyone who enjoys it. So please, if you have questions or you'd like to come and visit with different people within the community or take part in some activities we're going to be holding, hopefully we're going to have a Spring for Teatown event in April, please reach out to me. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here to address the board in this visitor recognition? Okay. So in that case, thanks to all of you and to all of our special guests for joining us this evening. I hope you'll join us for our green-themed town hall meeting next Tuesday, March 20th, which once again will be starting at 7 p.m. in the Ossining Public Library's Boudars Theater. May I have a motion to adjourn into executive session for personnel and advice of counsel, please?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful evening and a great week. Be safe.